Good day, and welcome to Zoyol's News. I'm Michael Reed. Our top story this hour: political tensions are rising in Iran as hardline figures warn of what they describe as a possible coup, adding fresh uncertainty to an already fragile truce with the United States. This is Zoyol's News. Once again, I'm Michael Reed. The news begins now. Tensions are rising inside Iran following the funeral of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. During the ceremony in Tehran, some mourners directed hostile chants at President Masoud Pezeshkian, while Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was confronted by protesters accusing him of making too many concessions in negotiations with Washington. The incidents highlight growing divisions within Iran, with some hardline factions claiming the country's leadership is moving away from the principles of the Islamic Republic. During the funeral negotiated and signed, the agreement leader remains largely invisible for fear of his life. They believe that instead of avenging Khamenei's killing, Iranian officials have surrendered by signing an agreement that defies the orders of Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei, the late leader's son and successor. Neither addressing the nation directly nor visibly asserting his authority, even as officials negotiate or govern in his name. Hardline factions that attended the funeral in large numbers, but Khamenei has remained hidden from public view. Hardliners have accused Iran's visible leadership, those running and representing the country as Khamenei remains in hiding, of plotting to consolidate power by suspending parliament, defying his orders in negotiations, and attempting to disperse the nightly street rallies that had become a potent power base for fundamentalists. Hardline figures in Iran have intensified claims of a possible political power struggle. Lawmaker Mahmoud Nabavian publicly raised concerns about what he described as a potential coup and urged supporters to defend the country's leadership. Political analyst Arash Azizi says the accusations reflect growing divisions within Iran's leadership rather than confirmed evidence of any coup. Political analyst Arash Azizi says the continued absence of Mojtaba Khamenei has fueled speculation over who is directing Iran's leadership. He says some hardline factions have accused senior officials, including Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, President Masoud Pezeshkian, and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, of trying to consolidate power. During the funeral ceremonies for the late Supreme Leader, hardline supporters renewed calls for a tougher stance against the United States and rejected any new agreement with Washington, highlighting growing divisions within Iran's political establishment. The fragile ceasefire between Iran and the United States came under renewed strain after attacks on commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz triggered retaliatory U.S. strikes. The escalation prompted hardline figures in Iran to call for the truce to be abandoned. In the weeks leading up to the renewed fighting, some hardline supporters openly criticized President Masoud Pezeshkian over the agreement with Washington. One pro-government religious singer issued a public warning against the president, reflecting the increasingly tense political atmosphere. Reports say the remarks drew criticism, but no legal action was announced. Other officials under hardline scrutiny include a former Revolutionary Guard commander with deep political experience whose credentials enabled him to step up and take charge during the war, emerging as the regime's de facto lead operator with broad acceptability. Iran's chief negotiator with the U.S., Ghalibaf, they are trying to elevate the role of the Supreme Council for National Security while diminishing the role of the Supreme Leader and Parliament. Cameron Ghazanfari, a hardline parliamentarian, said in a video statement early July, referring affairs. "This is the political coup they have designed and are carrying out step by step. To the council now deciding the country's most sensitive wartime on Tuesday." Nabavian, the hardline lawmaker who fiercely opposes the agreement and has been one of the leading voices warning of a coup, was removed from his position on the parliament's National Security Commission, along with another parliamentarian critical of the deal. Nabavian, who was part of Iran's negotiating delegation before turning against the talks and attempted to derail the agreement by leaking the text to the media before it was signed last month, claimed that Iran's negotiating team were defying the Supreme Leader's red lines in their talks with the U.S. CNN could not reach Nabavian for comment. He and others echo the views of Jevhiyi Paidari, whose hardline members are often described by observers as super-revolutionaries. They see themselves as the guardians of the values of the 1979 revolution that overthrew the pro-Western monarch and established an Islamic theocracy. Experts say Iran's visible leaders are actively trying to marginalize them. "We're seeing Ghalibaf exerting influence to sideline these hardline elements," Hamidreza Azizi, a visiting fellow at the German Institute for International and Security Affairs, told CNN. "They are too costly for the system and they're bringing their rivalries out in the open, especially as the situation in Iran becomes unstable. Their numbers are small, but they hold influential positions across the country, including in parliament and at the national broadcaster IRIB, which launched its own campaigns against the president. It's unclear how much support the group commands, but one of its most prominent figures garnered more than 13 million votes in the 2024 elections, finishing second. Iran's population is around 93 million. Former National Security Chief Saeed Jalili. Over the months of war and diplomacy with Iran, Trump has repeatedly described the Islamic Republic as seriously fractured, arguing that internal divisions have hindered any agreement. Yet despite the visible splits between the new leaders and the hardliners, observers say the regime remains unified around a core objective of ending the war on terms that deliver sanctions relief and preserve Tehran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. Political observers say the continued absence of Iran's top leadership, combined with the growing influence of the Revolutionary Guards and strong support from hardline factions, has strengthened calls for a tougher approach toward the United States and Israel. Some hardline figures have publicly urged a more aggressive response, highlighting the deepening divisions over Iran's next course of action. That wraps up our report on the growing political tensions in Iran and the mounting pressure on the fragile truce with the United States. We'll continue to follow developments and bring you the latest updates as the situation unfolds. You're watching Zoyol's News. I'm Michael Reed. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day.